Welcome back to Life Enrichment with Hank Ballinger. And welcome back to What is Money, Part 2, or Money is an I.O.U. Now, in the last podcast, we said that there are many forms of money, and there's also currency, which is not backed by any type of commodity. But today we want to look at money as an I.O.U., what money really does, and what you can do with money and what it represents. So let's say you work a 40-hour work week. Now, that's not hard for some people. A lot of businesses I know today, they're cutting down and you don't get as many hours. But years ago, everybody got 40 hours. You're lucky if you didn't have to work 50, 60, and sometimes 70 and 80. So 40 hours a week is not as common as it used to be, but still fairly common. So let's say you work 40 hours a week and they pay you $10 an hour. Now these are just good round numbers. They don't really represent what people, or by no means what everybody gets paid, but if you work 40 hours a week and you get paid $10 an hour, you will make $400 for that week. Now, what can you do with that $400? You have green pieces of paper that say $100 or $50 or 20 or 10 or 5 or 1. Let's say you take that $400, and what you can do with that is you tell society, let's say it's 4 $100 bills. You tell society, hey society, you owe me $400 worth of goods and services. So when you work that 40 hours, you're getting $400, but what that is an I.O.U. And you can give that to society, and society has to pay you the goods and services for that I.O.U. that you have. So if you work 40 hours a week, getting $10 an hour, you will make $40. Now let's say you take that $400 and you go out, and what could you purchase? Well, anything up to $400. You can say, hey, I want my car washed. I want to buy some groceries. I want to get some gas in my car. I want to buy a book. There's a number of things you can do up to $400 worth of goods and services. So you take that money and you can trade it for goods and services. Society owes you because of the amount of value that you've put into society. You have worked enough to have $400 worth of value that you have given to society. So you give the value to society, then you get paid those $400 worth of I.O.U.s, and you can turn around and give those to society to get goods and services. Now, what we understand by that is if you had a $400 bill, you could then trade that $400 bill for it's an I.O.U., and you can trade that for goods and services in society. Believe it or not, a guy one time went in through a drive-through at a restaurant with a $200 bill and gave it to the lady at the window, and she gave him his food and change back from a $200 bill. Now that's not counterfeit because there is no such thing as a $200 bill. But I think they did later arrest him on some other charge, but there is no $200 bill. Just as in our scenario here, there is no $400 bill, but you do have a $400 worth of value you have given to society that now society owes you. They owe you $400 worth of goods and services. Now let's look, and I want to make it clear, there is no distinction between the poor, the middle class, and the wealthy as far as being good people. They're just different aspects of wealth. If you're poor, means you just don't have a lot of money. If you're middle class, you have some and you invest some generally. But if you're rich or wealthy, you have a lot of money. Are you a better person than a poor person? No. Is the middle class better than the poor or the rich? No. So being poor, middle class, or wealthy doesn't mean you're a better person, doesn't mean you're a smarter person, doesn't mean any of that. All it means is that monetarily you view money and how to work with money differently. Okay? So that's what I want to get out across first. Now, let's say if you're a poor person, and generally each month, whatever amount of money you make, you spend that and you go to society and you say, hey, this money that I work for, I have given society X number of value this month, so I want those goods and services now. And that's generally the way the poor do it. Whatever amount of money they make this month, they spend this month. Nothing wrong with that. That's the way they want to live. That's fine. That's their life. But look at it this way. If you die broke, you are even with society, at least on a monetary basis. Meaning, whatever amount I worked and I gave value to society, I then took that value with those green pieces of paper and I traded those green pieces of paper in and I got the goods and services. So now society owes me nothing, I owe it nothing. We are even. Nothing wrong with that. And that's generally how the poor operate. The middle class, they generally operate with savings. Now, if you're a saver, and it could be in a 401, maybe in a 403, maybe in a SEP, maybe in an IRA, maybe in a Roth, whatever savings vehicle you use, generally the middle class are savers. They save money. Nothing wrong with that. Not good or bad, it's just a way to operate with money. But let's say the middle class, they have a certain amount of money and they work and they put that value into society. They work and then they get a certain amount of money, and a certain percentage of that money they then put in savings. And again, whatever savings vehicle they want to use, they could use that. And let's say, just hypothetically, when they die, they have some amount of money. Let's say, just for good round numbers, figures, they have $100,000 in the bank or in some kind of savings. They have given society $100,000 more value than society gave them. Do you see how that works? If they died with $100,000 in the bank, they gave more value than society gave them goods and services. That's interesting, isn't it? Meaning they didn't cheat society, nor did society cheat them. They could have spent the $100,000 and gotten goods and services for that. They chose not to. They wanted to save, maybe pass that on down to their heirs. So for whatever reason, they ended up with $100,000 worth of value that they had given to society that they didn't claim. They took that I.O.U. and they didn't cash it in. They had $100,000 worth of I.O.Us that they didn't claim, and society didn't have to pay them. Now let's look at the redneck rich. Now, remember, redneck rich is when you attain a lifestyle that gives you a residual income on a consistent basis, and you get that income every month, but you don't have to work every day for that. You have income coming in. Great way to live your life, because you're not tied to a 40-hour-a-week job. Nothing wrong with this. Nothing wrong with working 40 hours a week, 50, 60. I have worked 80-hour weeks before. No fun, but I have done it. Now let's say the redneck rich. They die, but let's say they have a lot of money, maybe millions or possibly billions of dollars in the bank. You know, there have been some people that have died with maybe 8, 10 in their personal accounts, 8, 10 billion dollars that they've never cashed in on. Do you see what they've done? Now, let me give you a few illustrations of this. Now, I am the world's lowest tech guy. I don't do computers. I don't do technology. I have to get that done for me because I'm not very good at technology. Now, years ago, for those of you who are a little older that may be watching this, do you remember when on computers you had a system called DOS? DOS stands for Disk Operating Systems. And you had to give that computer the command to go from one screen to another or back. And then if you wanted to go from one screen to another, but then wanted to go to another, you had to give it another command. And then to go to another, you got to give it another command. You had to remember all kinds of commands. I couldn't do it. It was so slow. And I always had a cheat sheet over here on the side that, well, to go to this screen, you need this command, this screen, this, and you're constantly looking back and forth. It took forever. And then a fellow came up with an idea. He said, well, why don't we just have it to where they just pull this arrow up here, this mouse, and they click, and it'll take them right to it. And Bill Gates made computers to where even somebody like me can operate a computer. That guy is a genius. So this guy, it's called the law of reciprocity. The more people you help, the more you are helped. Bill Gates made computers and made computing between companies and between nations. He made it very possible and much, much quicker. So he should be rewarded for that. Hundreds of billions of dollars he now has. Now, if he dies personally with $10 billion to his name that he hasn't spent, do you see what he has done? He has given society $10 billion worth of value that he hadn't claimed. Now, let's say as a company he dies, and that company is worth $200 billion. And we have some people that's around that mark right now. Bill Gates, Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos. There are some of these big tech guys and these people that have come up with amazing ideas. You see the amount of people they have helped, and because of the amount of people they have helped, they are rewarded richly. And some people get a little mad at these people, say all through the pandemic they made all kinds of money. Well, they kind of should have. If you think about it, in the pandemic, we were kind of locked up in our house. The government was giving out all kinds of money, and we were sitting in our houses, couldn't go anywhere, so a lot of us ate. And by eating, well, where am I getting that food? Well, I have Walmart bring it to me, or maybe I get it from Kroger. I go pick it up on the click list, or maybe I just have food brought to me, or I do the grab and go. I call a restaurant and they get it ready and I go pick it up and I bring it home and eat it. But how many people ordered stuff from Amazon during the pandemic? More than what ordered before, because now that we're locked in and we have to stay home, we're finding out it is great to just be able to order almost anything and they bring it right to our house. And you think about a guy that came up with that system, and then a pandemic hits and we can use the computer that Bill Gates came up with and order stuff from all over the world, and Jeff Bezos makes it possible for them to bring that right to our house. And all we got to do is open the door, step out on the stoop and get it, and it's ours. They helped a lot. But these guys have hundreds of billions of dollars worth of value they have given to society that possibly they have never taken those IOUs and said, hey, I want all those goods and services. See, these guys literally may die with their personal portfolios having tens of billions, maybe hundreds of billions of dollars of wealth that they haven't claimed. They have maybe 10 billion, $100 billion worth of IOUs
that they have given value to society and to the world that they have never claimed. Now, a lot of people may say, well, all those old rich, they're just greedy. They're greedy people. Really, the very wealthy, and the more they have, the more they have given to society without claiming those IOUs and taking back out of society the goods and services that they could claim with those IOUs. So the very wealthy are not greedy. They are very giving. They generally give more than they claim. So as you're building wealth, don't think bad of the poor, don't think bad of the middle class, and don't think bad of the wealthy. That's just 3 different ideas or concepts about money. And remember, money is just an IOU. Thank you for watching all the way to the end.